Hi guys, Shaman, Yolanda. We are.
Howdy.
What's that?
Howdy.
Howdy. We are co-founders of Harper Therapy, and you are now a published author of a book entitled Soul Sabbatical.
I am.
And one of the big concepts that you talk about, we've done some videos now. We've talked a few different of the concepts that are in your book. But
what led to this book? What led to the
yeah.
sabbatical that I took?
Right.
The idea of half living.
Yep.
The idea of
Your family history.
right and different systems and things that impact our lives that we can choose to have a different relationship with systems like capitalism and patriarchy and
Right.
perfectionism. If anybody knows what I'm talking about there.
I think one of the biggest concepts, though, that I guess it hit home for me because I remember really experiencing this one and reading it in your book and going, oh yeah, that's definitely been something. It's this idea of like we quit dreaming and we don't. I think it's just something that as we become adults, we kind of put it away.
Look, the systems beat it out of us.
Yeah, I mean, yes, they do.
Really,
right?
I mean, like, as you early in life, you can dream, and like a little girl can be an astronaut and a princess,
Right.
and like, but as you get older and you become involved in systems of patriarchy and capitalism, and then it's all about like, what do you do, and how do you make a living, and how do you earn money, and like,
how are you productive? And how are you,
you're too much here, or too little here, or not enough, and like all of that stuff. And
Right.
so we get to be very responsible adults that don't dream.
Right, and we take what we used to do and dream, and we just put it away, and it's like we lock it in a box, and we never, ever, ever go back to it.
Yeah, that's not for me.
Right.
And also, like I write it in the book, like, who am I? Like,
Yes.
Who am I to dream? You know, like, what right do I live a really
Good life.
good life.
Right.
What right do I have to question the status quo and like what I've been told is the American dream, and like how I should be happy, the ways that I should be happy.
Right.
So part of it is just giving ourselves permission to say, okay, my life is like this right now. I am starting to feel the impact of half living. I'm starting to feel the overwhelm. I'm starting to feel the burnout and the exhaustion. Like, what would be some different options? Like, how?
I mean, just asking those questions is kind of really brave and vulnerable, if you ask me. Like, because most people don't. Like, they this is it. This is life.
We're not taught that we can. Right? I tell the story all the time about how, you and I are military brats, and I moved our family. Like my dad was in the army, and we moved to Germany when I was in middle school. And so when you move around a lot as a military brat, you like make fast connections with people, right? And so I met my friend Mandy, and Mandy and I remember us having this conversation of like, did you realize that there are people that once they graduate from high school, they don't go to college? Did you even know that was allowed?
It's like allowed. It's against the law.
It's against the law. Like, seriously. Like, I'm not joking. But it's the same thing with dreaming. It's like, did you know that we actually can choose to dream a little bit?
Right, and think, oh my gosh, maybe I want something different.
And acknowledge, like, the way that my life is right now, I'd like to make some adjustments to.
Right.
And sometimes those adjustments are like small. Sometimes they're like, oh, instead of like jumping out of bed and like racing to work out and like get on with my productive capitalist endorsing day, I'm going to sit with a cup of coffee and after I've meditated, spend some time journaling and connecting with my heart.
Right.
It can look like that. It can look like, wow, I really hate this commute back and forth.
Right.
Like, that was the first time that I had kind of done this perfect day exercise and this dreaming exercise, and we were living in a different house at that time, and it was like the commute back and forth and blah, blah, blah. This was well before COVID. And so it was like, gosh, I'm in the car for so long. What would life look like if I didn't have to be in the car so much?
Right.
And then the next thing we know, we're buying a house. I'm
Right.
buying a house on the other side of town. Like I'm like
selling a house and buying a house.
How did that happen?
But I think that only happened because we gave ourselves permission to dream.
Right. And it doesn't it doesn't have to be that. Like
Right.
you
It
can
can be
dream
anything.
and like not take that action if it doesn't that doesn't necessarily work all the way around. There are things that I think of in my perfect day that I'm like, well, that's not for now, you know? But I can take tiny steps to move in that direction.
Sure.
So it's stepping into like giving ourselves permission to dream and just allowing that to expand to like these different ways of interacting with ourselves. Like, okay, so what if I can?
Right.
What if I could live this life?
Right.
What would that
What
look
if I did
like?
do that thing?
And what, like, we have learned to be so harsh with ourselves. And I think that's part of what keeps us from dreaming too, right?
Right. We're our own worst critic, right? Oh, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, really exploring, like, how can I meet myself with exquisite kindness that would help facilitate something other than half living?
Right.
And a lot more.
No, I mean, there is a lot in the book.
Yeah.
But it's such an invitation
Yeah.
to live a different way.
It really is. It really is an invitation to at least consider
Right.
what things would look like to live a different way. One of my favorite feedbacks so far about the book was someone who read it to give an endorsement, and we were texting back and forth, and she was like, I'm gonna have to reread it and like answer some of the questions that you pose in the book. And I didn't realize how deep it was until after I had finished reading it. And she was like, it's meaty without seeming meaty.
Right.
And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, what a compliment.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I would agree with that. Like, it's a relatively easeful read, but it's the kind of thing that makes you stop and think, oh, you know, and kind of delve into that a little bit and challenge yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of people are now pausing and saying, what does my heart want right now?
right.
And that's really cool. And that's the invitation. That's the invitation ultimately, is to reconnect with your heart and have these moments of connection with yourself. Of like, what does my heart need right now?
Right.
And then putting those things into action more. And that leads to reviving your heart, reconnecting with your time and energy, and with relationships. Because one of the biggest outcomes of one of the biggest consequences of half living is the damage that it does to our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with the people who matter the most.
And it's not like the concept of a soul sabbatical isn't like a one thing. It's like a changing the way you kind of construct life.
Yeah.
And the invitation is to make little adjustments in your life.
Yeah.
That you're doing all the time.
I say it's an event, or it can be an event, but it's more so a practice. And it'll be a practice for me for the rest of my life. You know, at the conclusion, it's an invitation for like deeper still. It's like, this is where I am now, and this is good. And I know that in 6 months from now, it might look different.
Right.
In a year from now. Even from the beginning of writing the book to where I am right now, it looks different, much less, you know, from when I took my sabbatical 2 years ago to this time.
Right.
And so that's a part of it.
Absolutely. That's cool. You can get this book. We'll put links everywhere. I don't know. We'll do something with links to buy the book. Yeah. But it's really cool. And I'm really proud of you for doing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys. See you later.
Thanks, guys.